Welcome to the Explainer. So, look, we've all heard the old advice, right? Put a little lavender on your pillow and you'll sleep like a baby. But is that just an old wives' tale, or is there actual hard science backing it up? Well, today we're completely deconstructing the precise neurological mechanisms behind aromatic compounds like lavender and chamomile. We're going to see exactly how they function to reduce stress and promote sleep. We are moving entirely past simple folklore here and diving strictly into the hard clinical data to understand how scent literally alters the architecture of your brain.
It really is the fundamental question, isn't it? Can a scent physically change your brain chemistry? A lot of people dismiss aromatherapy as just, simple pleasantries, nice smells that make a room feel a bit more cozy. But the clinical data reveals a completely different story. It shows a direct physical interaction between what you smell and how your brain operates. We are absolutely not talking about a psychological placebo effect here. We're talking about volatile plant compounds crossing physical barriers in your body and actively modulating your neurotransmitter systems.
To truly grasp how this works, we have to look at the pathway itself. When you inhale, these tiny aroma molecules travel incredibly fast through your olfactory nerves, heading straight to the brain's limbic system. Now, what's so vital about this is that this pathway entirely bypasses the usual physiological barriers that oral medications have to navigate. And that matters because it works almost instantly. You aren't waiting 45 minutes for a melatonin pill to dissolve and kick in. By interfacing directly with the limbic system, these compounds start immediately regulating your emotions, your memory, and even autonomic functions like your breathing and your heart rate. Okay, let's move into the neurochemistry of calm, and specifically look at how we modulate the brain's brake pedal. To really understand this efficacy, we have to talk about GABA, gamma-aminobutyric acid. This is the crucial inhibitory neurotransmitter in your central nervous system. You can think of it quite literally as your brain's brake pedal. When you're stressed out or anxious, your neuronal excitability is super high, right? It's like your brain is just flooring the gas pedal. Well, GABA is the chemical your brain uses to hit the brakes, calm all that overactivity down, and prepare your body for a state of deep rest and eventually sleep. The actual chronological mechanism of action unfolding inside your head is just fascinating. Right after absorption, the active compounds in these essential oils actually bind to GABA-A receptors in the brain. They act a lot like certain sedative medications do by boosting GABA's naturally calming effects and shutting down that overactive nerve signaling. And the result? Well, clinical monitoring shows a measurable increase in alpha brainwaves, which is the brain state of relaxed wakefulness, plus a major drop in autonomic arousal, meaning your heart rate slows down and your body physically lets go.
But get this, at the exact same time, clinical studies show that inhaling these compounds actively lowers your cortisol levels. As you probably know, cortisol is your body's primary stress hormone. By suppressing it, these essential oils are physically shifting your body out of that highly stressed, constantly email-checking state. It clears the physiological runway, so to speak, for you to get a deep, restorative night's sleep.
All right, let's move to a direct comparison. Lavender versus chamomile, a comparative analysis of aromatic compounds.
Now, what's really wild here is how completely different their underlying mechanisms are. Lavender relies heavily on two active compounds, linalool and linalyl acetate, to directly enhance your overall GABA-A receptor activity. Roman chamomile, on the other hand, uses a flavonoid called apigenin, and this compound is remarkable because it actually targets and binds to specific benzodiazepine receptors located right on the GABA-A complex. So you have two totally different botanical compounds, but both are masterfully unlocking the brain's natural relaxation pathways.
And this distinction brings us to a massive clinical advantage, which is exactly why this matters so much for us. Unlike pharmaceutical benzodiazepines, which, also target these exact same GABA pathways, lavender and chamomile modulate these networks without causing dependency, without that daytime drowsiness, and without any withdrawal symptoms. You're effectively getting a natural enhancement of your relaxation, but completely avoiding the groggy morning hangover that usually comes with prescription sleep aids. Let's shift gears and look at the clinical evidence, digging into the empirical data on sleep quality and insomnia. Across the board, multiple, rigorous, randomized controlled trials have consistently demonstrated some pretty amazing measurable results. For older adults and those dealing with depression, lavender reliably improved their Pittsburgh Sleep Quality Index scores. Meanwhile, there was a highly focused trial on young adults struggling with clinical insomnia, and it showed that nightly chamomile inhalation significantly reduced their insomnia severity index. The data here is just incredibly consistent across totally diverse populations. When researchers zoom out,
the picture becomes even clearer. A massive 2019 meta-analysis looked at 34 different studies. It confirmed that lavender yielded the absolute greatest effect size for improving overall sleep architecture. But here's a really surprising fact. We usually assume that more is better, right? Like blending a bunch of oils together should be stronger. Actually, scratch that. The science says otherwise. Using just a single oil inhalation over multiple consecutive nights was more effective than blending different oils together. It seems consistency and purity are really the key drivers here.
Furthermore, we're seeing solid evidence that these aren't just fleeting, temporary effects. A trial involving chamomile inhalation for older adults proved that the improvements in sleep, as well as the reductions in depression and anxiety, actually persisted for at least a full 30 days post-intervention. So the brain actually appears to benefit from a lasting recalibration of its stress response, long after your nightly aromatherapy session has ended.
So let's look at evidence-based routines and talk about translating all this science into safe, practical application for you. Based directly on the clinical trials, an evidence-based routine gives you a nice little menu of easy options to try at home. You can use an ultrasonic diffuser just 10 minutes before bed to prep your room. You could prepare warm aromatic bath using a dispersant like Epsom salts, which, by the way, has the added bonus of lowering your core body temperature to signal sleep. Or you can apply it topically on your wrists or temples, provided it's diluted, of course. Finally, simple inhalation. Just putting a few drops on a tissue near your bed was shown to be highly effective, and it requires literally zero equipment. Now, I do need to say, just because something is natural does not automatically mean it's safe without precautions. Safety is absolutely paramount here. If you apply oils topically, they must be diluted with a carrier oil, like jojoba or coconut oil. If you diffuse, you definitely need adequate room ventilation to prevent the buildup of VOCs, or volatile organic compounds. But most importantly, aromatherapy isn't some magic spell. It really only works if you pair it with basic sleep hygiene, so you still have to limit the blue light, watch the caffeine, and maintain a consistent sleep schedule. By completely demystifying the science, we can clearly see exactly how these powerful plant compounds physically quiet the noise in our brains and invite deep rest. So, I'll leave you with one final thought to consider. Equipped with this new data, how are you going to re-engineer your own sleep environment tonight? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and sleep well.